This portion of the show, I want to give a review of a pretty wild experience I've had. The last couple of days have been insane. As some of you know, it was my 20th birthday, and the timing of that just happened to coincide with the Aubrey and the Three Migos live tour, which was, of course, the Drake and Migos co-headline tour. This was first announced. Everybody was, I'm not going to say shocked. I guess it kind of makes sense as a business move. They have a couple of collab songs together. Their fan bases mesh together really well. But nonetheless, this was very, very exciting for fans to find out about. So, of course, waiting for many, many months to go and see this experience. Now, the first thing that I want to mention is one little piece of backstory that's pretty important. These two concerts took place here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And back in 2017, Future came through here with the Nobody's Safe tour, which had a bunch of rappers on it. And one of the acts on it was the Migos. Now, the day of that show, when everybody showed up to see the tour, there were signs in the middle of the lobby that said Migos will not be performing tonight. I think it said due to illness or something like that, if even that. So Migos literally canceled within an hour of when they were supposed to go on stage here in Edmonton, all three members. So this time there was a lot of speculation about, okay, are Migos going to show up? Are they going to come? People really didn't know. You know, I didn't want to jinx it. I thought they would most likely show up. But, you know, again, it's hard to tell. So we showed up for night number 1 at the Rogers Place. It actually was sold very, very well. This is the inside of the arena. Night 1 was actually what appears to be sold out. And we're waiting for Migos to get on stage. And it's about 9:30, and suddenly we just hear the beginning of Drake's set. And we kind of all look at each other and we're saying, oh shit, Migos didn't show up. So this is the second year in a row in the same city on a tour that Migos came and just simply did not show up for their set, this time without even an explanation. So there was a lot of sort of unrest in the lobby at this point in time. There was a lot of confusion. People were screaming, you know, screw Migos, they screwed us over again. But, you know, people were still excited to run in and see Drake. So, you know, obviously it's Drake. Everybody there was excited to see him. So it was kind of like a good enough of a Band-Aid to make people forget about Migos. But I do have to say, I was quite disappointed that once Drake took the stage, he didn't even mention anything about Migos not being there, why they weren't there. So definitely a very confusing start to the concert. Now, Drake starts off his concert with the song 8 out of 10, which is sort of a quasi Kanye and Pusha T diss. And he starts it in sort of this veil of a white silk, which they're broadcasting images on. They have images of him floating in the air. They have images of his face sort of flashing. And it's a pretty interesting setup, quite different from anything I've seen before. The stage is right in the middle of the arena. It's a large, very large rectangular stage, and Drake basically has the entire stage to himself to just run around. That's one thing I noticed. He doesn't have a band here, as far as I know. And really, the only people that are on stage with him are Migos when he decides to have them and the backup dancers. So, you know, when you go to see Drake, you can definitely expect, you know, it's all about him. He wants all eyes on him at all times, unless he's having a famous collaborator with him. But he went from there into Mob Ties. And, you know, I thought, like I said, I thought that this was a little bit of an odd start for the concert. I kind of feel like 8 out of 10 is more of a middle or ending song, as it was on the album Scorpion. But I think Mob Ties was cool, and it brought the energy in the building right off the top. From there, Drake brought the energy with Started From the Bottom, of course a classic fan favorite, got the place going crazy. Then he went into this medley of a bunch of different songs where he sort of split up the arena into two different sides. He said, let me get my left side singing one song, my right side singing one song. And this is an interesting part about all concerts. I'm a huge Kiss fan, I'm a huge rock and roll fan as well, and Paul Stanley of Kiss says that every concert has Kiss DNA in it. And this is one of those moments where you really see that. Paul Stanley back in 1976 on the Alive tour would split the audience into two sides. He started that, and he would get the audiences to battle to see who would be the loudest. You know, so this is an old school tactic, and it's also a trademark sign of a really good frontman who's invested in actually making sure the audience has a good time. That's one thing that Drake is. He's very much invested in, making sure that he knows what city he's in, just the little things like that. But I will say, I think I noticed a little bit less energy from Drake on night number 1 here in Edmonton. I don't think I saw one genuine smile on his face through the entire show. He performed very well. He brought the energy that he needed to do, and he delivered everything, 100% well. But he didn't seem happy, and he didn't quite seem like he wanted to be there, which is okay. I don't need you to want to be there every single night when you've done 75 shows all over the globe. I understand that. I also understand that Drake just had a loss to someone very close to him. So I would like to send my condolences to Drake and anybody else in the team who was affected by that. So, I understand that things happen in people's personal lives. I don't hold it against him, but that's definitely just something that I noticed that I think is worth noting as an observation. So then he went from there into Know Yourself. Then he went into one of the next highlights of the show. And this has been a point of contention, actually, for a lot of fans. Of course, I'm talking about the yellow Ferrari. So half the audience thinks that this yellow Ferrari here that we're seeing is real, and I think the other half realizes that it's fake. I've come to the conclusion that I think that this is a real Lamborghini body or shell on the or Ferrari body or shell on the outside, but it has to be hollow on the inside. The liabilities of having an actual Ferrari flying over the audience in a stadium, it just screams lawsuit. There's too many liabilities. People could definitely get hurt, and I don't think Drake would put himself in a position to lose money like that. However, this is a awesome effect, and it gives the show something that is, I guess, a trademark of the tour. People are showing up to see the yellow Ferrari, and it just really makes the experience really special. From here, Drake went into a medley of a lot of his classic songs: Galchester, Trophies, Pop Style, Hell Yeah Fucking Right. Now, after he did his medley is when we got a surprise and we heard Walk It Talk It come on, and a platform came up with two of the Migos. Two of the Migos showed up, Quavo and Takeoff. I gotta say, this was a huge surprise because, like I said, they just were a no-show in the beginning. Drake came on stage and said nothing about it. We gotta remember, this is the Aubrey and the Three Migos tour. And if the Three Migos aren't there, that's quite literally 50% of the evening and 50% of the audience that's disappointed, and the night is gone. Edmonton was the only market that was played in Alberta, so you gotta remember, there's many, many different semi-major cities in Alberta. We have Calgary, we have Grand Prairie, which is a 5-hour drive. We have a lot of people coming in from a lot of different markets to squeeze into the Edmonton market. That's why there's 2 shows. They don't add 2 shows because they feel like it. They add 2 shows because they have to accommodate to the market. And my point is that a major percentage of that market was there to see the Migos. And when you do something like this, it just doesn't resonate or sit well with your fans, especially because it's the second year in a row. However, I very much appreciate the fact that Quavo and Takeoff actually came out and got on stage. They didn't have to do that night. They could have just gone back to the hotel, and I'm sure they have, thousands of options of whatever the hell they could be doing at any given moment. So I definitely appreciate that. So they came out, they did Walk It, Talk It, they did Narcos, they did a couple of different tunes, and it really helped tide the crowd over. It made them happy. And at the end of it, Drake said that Offset is on the way. He said, we got Quavo and Takeoff and Offset on the way. So I was thinking, okay, there's some hope that Offset's going to be there for night 2. After the boys from the Migos got off stage, the curtain came down and it was time for side B of Scorpion. This is where Drake came out and did a lot of his softer songs. He did Don't Matter to Me featuring Michael Jackson, That's How You Feel, Jaded, After Dark. A lot of the songs that really had the females going crazy in the building. He wasn't quite as into it as I've seen him in past nights. And at this point in the show, it sort of seemed like Drake was really just going through the motions, and it seemed like he was sort of eager to get out of there. And I'm a big Drake fan. This was my 3rd time seeing him live. But again, I understand these things. There's certain circumstances, and when you're living the lifestyle that somebody like that's living, there's just things that the average person simply cannot understand. From there, he went into Controlla, One Dance, and Hotline Bling. And at this point, I went down to find my sister. I was at the concert with my boy Kyle, my roommate, and my sister was there with her friend. So we went down to find them in the section. And, that's when the show kicked up a notch. We were turning up. We were going crazy. And I thought it was cool that he did all the poppy kind of radio hits at one time. One Dance, Hotline Bling, and Fake Love. And Even Nice for What, just back to back to back. that's the B-side. You give people kind of what they want, and this was an interesting setup because usually a Drake show is, you're getting 50-50 singing and rapping through the entire show. This time it was most of the hard-hitting rap right off the top, especially with the Migos before, if they would have shown up. And then you sort of had the B-side to kind of relax. So maybe taking advantage of people being tired, maybe strategic planning, I'm not entirely sure. After all the slower B-side songs, Drake was passed a shot up on stage. He did a toast with the audience to get them riled up, and he said he was ready to go. He launched into Look Alive. He did a bunch of other tunes. He did Sicko Mode. He did Nonstop. And he really ended the show off with a bang. I think he brought a little bit more energy. And at the end of the show, he did a speech after God's plan. And, this whole segment of the show, right from when he takes the shot, is so scripted. And again, this is a thing that a lot of people just simply don't realize. And it's fine because if you either don't work around events or have never, been involved in that side of it, you may not understand that a lot of these concerts are really just like Broadway shows. They're like Broadway performances. Drake is the type of artist to do it that way, just like Kiss, just like a lot of the great frontmen, like I've said, even though it's a different kind of music, they really just say the same thing just like it's a script, just like it's a Broadway performance. And, they know the things to say that get the crowd riled up. And that's what I noticed when I came back for night number 2. The second day, we said, fuck it. We just snapped and we went over to the Rogers Place and we bought 2 more tickets to go back and see this tour again. Since Drake said that Offset was on the way, we figured he was going to be showing up. So we bought the tickets and we ended up missing the Migos. So here on night 2, the Migos actually showed up without Offset. So we got Quavo and Takeoff again. But they came up and they did their set minus Offset. Which, again, I definitely appreciate it. But I don't appreciate it too much. Because I don't know what was preventing them from doing that the night before. But then again, maybe they all had issues getting in. It's one of those things that things can get complicated when you have criminal records and stuff like that. But the place went crazy. They were super happy to see 2 of the Migos. And we got there for night 2. And so for night 1, we were down in the lower bowl. We had a real nice close view. And for night 2, we were up in the upper bowl. So really the things that I noticed on night 2 was just really the scenery of the entire stage was beautiful. He had his layout where he turned the stage into an iPhone at one point. He had a bunch of different graphics on stage. During I'm Upset, he had the lyrics. And he actually had an effect, too, where he was walking and every step he took, the squares would sort of illuminate in every step he took. Some really, really interesting visuals going on here, and getting to see it from up above from a bird's eye view really added a different dimension to it. The main thing I noticed about night 2 is that Drake seemed to be in much better spirits, and he definitely brought a lot more energy. I could see him genuinely smiling. He seemed happy to be there. This was his last show in Canada, so I think that it was the last show in Edmonton and the last show in Canada, period. He really, really loves it. Of course, it's his home country, so I think he kicked it up a notch, and I appreciate him for that. I genuinely do. It was a really, really great show, and we had a lot of fun. From the show, we went straight down to the Migos Afterparty over at Union Hall. Now, it was billed that the 3 Migos were going to be showing up and coming in the club. But with what had happened on night 1 and what had happened with Offset not being there both nights, myself and my group were convinced that Migos was probably just not going to show up. But we arrived to the venue and there was immediately a very heavy security presence. So we could definitely tell something was going on. We didn't know quite what, but something's going on. We come in and there's a bunch of crew members in there, a bunch of police officers, actual police officers, security guards as well, and the DJ's on stage saying that they got the Migos in the building. So we waited for about 2 hours, and then all of a sudden security starts brushing up and pushing past me. So I figured, okay, they're making a path. I've run events. It used to be my job, and it's about to be again, to walk alongside the artists, make sure they get in and out of the venue safely, they don't get bothered. So I can tell when they're positioning to bring people in and out. And next thing you know, I turn around and Quavo and Takeoff are walking right past me on their path to the stage. And sure enough, they showed up. Now, it was really cool to see them. Of course, the place went crazy. But I gotta say, the boys in the Migos had a little bit too much fun partying before this performance. Quavo and Takeoff essentially just showed up on various drugs. Quavo had a cup of lean with him, actually, which he announced it was lean in his cup. And they basically didn't sing through most of their songs. They sang a little bit. They sort of danced around a little bit and sort of just looked at people. They gave a pretty good chunk of time. They were there for about, maybe 20 minutes, maybe a good 15 minutes, which was all right. But, I think that it's fine to have a good time and get fucked up, and that's actually a big part of Migos' image. So it's cool to show up with a double cup or whatever if that's part of your image, I guess. I personally don't think it's cool. But there's a certain level of professionalism. Like, you have to have at least 5% professionalism when you're being paid so much money for so little effort and so little time. But I guess you don't, though, because they just walked away with my fucking money and they didn't put in the effort. So, it's like a double-edged sword. But I guess what I'm saying is, as a fan and as a person who really appreciates hip-hop and the culture, I would appreciate like 1% respect back for paying your bills, because I'm the one streaming your songs and buying your tickets and paying for, we're all paying for everything that you guys own. And, I know that they know that, but I know that you reach a certain level and you can forget about that. But I think that that's what a lot of people felt here in Edmonton this week. I think a lot of people felt a little bit smacked in the face by the Migos in a lot of different ways, especially Offset. I don't think they're going to have too much luck selling tickets if they actually come back here. But overall, this experience, I'm going to give it a 3.5 stars out of 5 for a concert experience. I think Drake was really solid. We had a lot of fun. It was really cool. Like, the actual visual of seeing him on stage with the Migos was really, really cool. But this tour was just so unpredictable, and it played out in a way that I've really never seen before. Live Nation is a really good company, and usually their tours are strictly by the book when it comes to schedules. So things like this happening, like no shows, people don't realize how many tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars that costs companies. So these are things that are completely unacceptable in the world of entertainment. So that is why I knocked off a couple of stars. However, I would definitely recommend going to see this tour, especially if you're in the States and you know that the act isn't going to have difficulty getting there. I would not recommend traveling to see this tour. Don't spend money in travel to go see Migos. Trademark mistake. But definitely would recommend this, and I had a fantastic time here at the Aubrey and the Three Migos tour.